So first of all, thank you, Dan, for
Absolutely.
spending some time talking with us. Most former trustees have served 6 years on the board, but because you were board chair, you served 7 years. How might you summarize, hopefully there was a sense of joy and accomplishment that you achieved in those 7 years. Talk more about the accomplishment. How do you feel about the people with whom you were serving on the board and what that allowed you to achieve from a philanthropic perspective?
Right. One of the great joys of serving on the Catholic Foundation board is the people that you get to interact with, people at the organization, the employees of the Catholic Foundation who are just incredible at what they do and the value that they bring to all of our donors and to help them fulfill their charitable commitments and their charitable desires. So working with that team was incredibly beneficial and enjoyable. But also working alongside my fellow trustees, the board is a very talented group of individuals. We have 18 board members. They come from a number of walks of life in our community. We have investment professionals, we have accountants, we have lawyers, we have community volunteers, all that bring their special skills to the board to help us govern the Catholic Foundation and to help it grow, to help us meet the needs of all of our donors. So those were really enjoyable moments to get to work with both the team at the foundation, to get to work with my fellow board members, and to work with folks in the community that applied for grants as well.
And how eye-opening was it for you when you came on board? And a lot of times the Catholic Foundation is confused with the Diocese of Dallas or with Catholic Charities of Dallas. The foundation has tried to work on a number of things to help people better understand, but how eye-opening did it become for you in your first couple of years as a trustee to say, aha, here's the role that the Catholic Foundation plays in the North Texas community?
Sure. No, there are, as you said, common misconceptions about who the foundation is and what we do. And certainly, I know a lot more about it after 7 years as a trustee than I did day one as a trustee, even though I had a donor advised fund already established at the foundation. But what I learned about the foundation, all the good work that it does, certainly did magnify or grow over that 7-year period. But I think the thing that I learned the most about is that we are independent of the diocese. We are separate from the diocese, governed by our board. The bishop is one of our board members, but that separation is important to our donors. We certainly support the Diocese of Dallas in what we do. But our first and most important role is to carry out the wishes of our donors. As they've established their donor advised funds, give through the foundation, our job as trustees is to make sure that those funds are governed appropriately and that we carry out their wishes. And hopefully we manage the foundation well. There are additional earnings that are generated that can flow back into the Diocese of Dallas through our unrestricted grants.
And by being a donor yourself, you realize that there are donors come in all shapes and sizes, all sorts of backgrounds, all sorts of ages. Some give to Catholic causes, some give to Catholic causes and non-Catholic causes combined. Is there something to be said about the ease by which donors can use the Catholic Foundation to be philanthropic, to fulfill their philanthropic dreams? Talk a little bit about the role that the Catholic Foundation helps make it easier for donors to give through the Catholic Foundation itself.
Right. A common refrain that we hear from donors, and I experienced it myself, is, I wish I had done this many years earlier, because it's something that most of us are doing. We are making charitable contributions. The reality is, to make those charitable contributions through the Catholic Foundation is incredibly easy. Number one, it's very tax efficient, because as you make your donation into your fund, that is when you would generate the tax benefit. And then you can decide then or at some later period where you want those funds to be dispersed. And as you said, it can go to Catholic causes, it can go within the diocese, it can go to non-Catholic causes, it can go outside of the diocese. Again, you can control where that money goes and make those donations out of your donor advised fund and specify where you want them to go, as long as they're not inconsistent with Catholic social teaching.
So we have 3 new donors that are coming on board to the foundation now, and over the years we'll have many more.
Right.
What advice would you give to new donors to dive in quickly, to learn as much as they can, and not necessarily wait until their fourth or their fifth or their sixth
Right.
year, or maybe seventh if they're a board chair. But how can they quickly get involved to use their God-given talents and skills professionally in whatever industry they
Sure.
might work to make an impact to the
Sure.
Catholic Foundation?
Sure. I think first of all, ask questions, right? Be curious. You've been nominated to serve as a trustee at the Catholic Foundation because of the talents that you bring. And it's helpful if there's something you don't understand to ask questions in our board meetings. Ask questions in our committee meetings through which we do govern the foundation. And also bring your talents about the Diocese of Dallas and what the needs are as you're doing grant evaluations, making site visits, asking questions of those organizations, and making sure that we're prudently spending the funds that we have available to make a huge impact in the diocese. So bring that curiosity, bring the various skills that you have, and ask questions.
And as a donor, you had a beautiful opportunity to take some very special trips. You went with fellow donors and some Catholic Foundation leadership members on pilgrimage to the Holy Land, renewed your wedding vow, and then also more recently the shrines in Italy. But talk first about the Holy Land
Right.
only. What was the significance of going on a pilgrimage with fellow donors from the Catholic Foundation?
Right. It was a very significant event in my life, my wife's life as well. We got to experience things that we never thought we would experience. As you said, we got to be at Cana and renew our wedding vows at Cana. We got to spend time at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. We got to celebrate Mass there. We got to go to the Dead Sea. All places, we got to go to the River Jordan. Places that as I'm sitting in the pew on Sunday, in fact, just this past Sunday when we talked about the baptism of Jesus, talking about the River Jordan. And it's just meaningful to put yourself there, to be on the shores of Lake Galilee in Capernaum, where Jesus met many of the disciples, and to be there in a very quiet place. You just felt a different connection that I'd never felt before. The other great benefit was meeting such wonderful friends and making new friends, getting closer to people that we knew and acquaintances, but making really deep friendships as a result of the trip, because it is a bonding time and a bonding experience, and it is a true pilgrimage. And so it had a meaningful impact on myself and my wife.
And because of the challenges with wars and
Sure.
outbreaks that are taking place in the Holy Land, this past year instead, you and donors went on a pilgrimage to see sacred shrines in Italy. How was that pilgrimage a little maybe different than the Holy Land pilgrimage for you?
Right. Someone said, it's not my words, somebody said you go to the Holy Land to experience Christ, and you go to Italy and the shrines to experience the church. And so it was a deeper connection to the church that I felt as we toured those shrines, as we toured those early churches, as we spent time at St. Peter's. It was a very, very meaningful experience, getting to know a bit more about the roots of the church, getting to know a lot about our faith that maybe I hadn't thought of in a certain way. And again, doing it with wonderful people and friends and getting to know couples on a much different level.
A lot of people say they tend to know more about the Catholic Foundation from the grants that are distributed because of things they hear about from grant recipients, whether it's a Catholic church or a Catholic school or a nonprofit. As a trustee, you are placed in a really unique position to make funding decisions on what funds will go to churches and schools and
Right.
nonprofits. Having that opportunity to have such responsibility for possibly changing the whole trajectory of a church or a school or a nonprofit, how did that make you feel as a trustee of knowing that you were given the authority to make funding decisions of where grants would be directed?
Right. It was certainly a rewarding process as you see good work being done and you want to reward that good work, right? And there are people that are doing lots of amazing things in our diocese that need just a little bit of help to get there, and the foundation has been able to do it. It's also something that makes you step back and think about you are in a position to carry out wishes of donors past. We stand We're very fortunate at the foundation. We stand on the shoulders of giants, of people that have come before us and have established funds and have put us in a position where we can make these types of grants. So thinking about their legacy and thinking about how do you make right decisions that honor that legacy is something that makes you take a step back and think, but it also brings, I think, a spirit of contemplation, prayer, and trying to be thoughtful about where we do put funds. And so you want to put them in a place that makes a positive impact for as many people as we can.
I remember one particular day, it was a little rainy, and you and Eileen and Lois Cartwright were the three trustees, and Ann and I were down with you at the pastoral office by the now National Shrine Cathedral of Our Lady of Guadalupe, and they were looking for some of the most fundamental needs just to stop the drainage and stop the drip. We're walking down the hallway, and I said something to you of, did you count the number of buckets? And you noticed them as well. And I said, oh my God. And it was something like there were 23 buckets in the hallway collecting water that was dripping. That was a very poignant moment that opened my eyes to say, holy moly, you would think everything would be perfect at the pastoral office by the cathedral. Not so. That being said, are there any vignettes, any memories that you've got from some of these site visits that you took where you are driving back to your office in downtown or at home later that night perhaps and said, I had no idea that there were such needs that were in our community, and thank God this organization has requested a grant and we now have an opportunity to get back to them. Any stories that you might share that would cause people to say, wow, what a neat experience you had?
Yeah, there's a number of them. I tried to think back on how many site visits I've gone to in 7 years as a trustee, and I think between spring and fall grants, and generally 2 to 3 a year, the number starts to add up. So there's been a number of them, and they all carry great meaning. Certainly the one you mentioned at the National Cathedral Shrine was meaningful because we did make a grant and did make a significant impact on such a beautiful facility. We also had a church in South Dallas that had incredible structural problems. That if they weren't solved, they were going to have to vacate the building, and the foundation was able to step in and make an impact. We've given grants to elderly residences where they needed air conditioning in the middle of summertime, and they didn't have it. There was a school doing just wonderful work in Garland that windows broken out, original windows from 50 years ago. That were broken and not safe, and we were able to step in and help them and fix that. And I think if you can do those kinds of things that show children, students, that there are people that care about them. You can show people that are attending Mass, there are people that care about them being safe. You can provide air conditioning for elderly. All those things are meaningful and have an impact. Also had the experience of people starting new programs, right, that have a meaningful impact throughout our diocese. So we see the whole gamut between doing maintenance work, between helping restore something, as well as starting new programs. All of those are meaningful.
Mm-hmm. You've had a storied career professionally and been involved in a lot of different nonprofit work.
Right.
Not many people become board chair, but when you became board chair, which was a 2-year term for the Catholic Foundation, as you look back on your career and all the things that you've done, is that something that you would have imagined that you have ever been in that type of role growing up as a kid?
No, it's not something I thought I would be, and actually was quite frankly surprised to be board chair, but it was something that I was pleased to do. I found it to be incredibly easy because of the professionalism of the Catholic Foundation staff and the fact that we have a great board. It is a board that's incredibly supportive. It's a board that's well prepared when we have a meeting. People have looked at the material. People have thought about the issues. People come to meetings ready to conduct the business of the foundation and to make sure that we're being thoughtful about the governance of the foundation. The staff run the foundation, and that's the way it's supposed to be. The board's there to provide strategic advice, to provide governance, to make sure that we are doing the things we need to do. But that combination of the right staff combined with the right board members made it a very joyful experience.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but your daughter has become a donor herself of the Catholic Foundation.
Right.
Is there something to be said about multiple generations? Do you see, I mean, does it give you pride to know that you and your wife have been philanthropic, you've given through the foundation, and now you have a child who herself is a donor of the Catholic Foundation? How does that make you guys feel?
Well, certainly we're proud. We're proud of our daughter. We're proud of all of the donors at the foundation. But our story is not unique. I think if you look at the roles of Catholic Foundation donors over its almost 70-year history, you'll find a number of generations of donors, and I hope we continue to have that. And I think we will if we continue to do good work. We continue to do the things that the foundation's has done in the past. We'll continue to have new generations and add new generations of donors for years to come. And I also hope that we continue to grow the donors of the Catholic Foundation, because it is something so many people are doing already. They are charitable, they're philanthropic, they are giving. They could simplify that giving by giving through the foundation and have a multiplier effect on our community. So I'm very hopeful that we'll continue to grow the foundation.
And sort of wind you down with the last two questions here. So the foundation currently has more than $300 million in assets under management. In just the last 10 years alone has distributed $219 million of a total of $313 million, a new figure we just received today, in its lifetime. So do you see people using Catholic foundations like the Catholic Foundation as a tool to be philanthropic? That this is something, it's not a fad, but this is something that we'll see 20, 30, 40 years from now?
Yeah, I think it will, and that's one of the things, you made reference to it earlier about one of the things that I'm proud of. I'm proud of the continued growth and trajectory of the foundation and the impact that the foundation's having. As you said, over the last 10 years alone, 200 and some odd million has gone out of the foundation into our community doing great work. We can continue to grow that, and we'll continue to get the story out there and continue to add donors over the years. We can continue to multiply that impact.
And then last question, just on a social basis, you see a lot of people at parties, at events, after Mass, in the parish hall, the grocery store. They know that you've been so involved in the Catholic Foundation. What do you tell them, people who just happen to, you see, perhaps it's coincidental, maybe not so coincidental if we follow in our life of faith. What do you tell people about the significance of the Catholic Foundation in the greater Diocese of Dallas?
Well, I think if you go and talk to the folks that we've given grants to, they would say it did change their organization's trajectory, the number of people they were able to serve, how they were able to get things done. So I think the Catholic Foundation has been a game changer for a number of organizations in our diocese. I think it is looked upon as the gold standard in terms of not only providing financial resources, financial assistance, but also offering a sign of excellence to those organizations that we give to, because they know that we do go in and evaluate the work of those organizations before we make a grant. So I think that makes an impact as well.
If Tom Yoxel gets tennis elbow for playing tennis and says he can't perform the duty of the board chair, would you consider coming back for 2 more years?
Always happy to serve, but there is actually a vice chair of the foundation who can step in and take that role. I'm confident.
Very good. All right. Well, thank you.